الله تعالى.
So I hope you don't mind we record that session, right? Wouter, can you hear me? Wouter?
Yes.
Yeah. So I hope you don't mind if we record, right?
I'm sorry?
I hope you don't mind we record the session.
No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. I guess we start.
Okay.
Will join us. We just sent a reminder. So thank you very much, Wouter. I really appreciate your time. So with this session, we are kicking back the Insight Series session at ESCWA for 2025. Last year, we have 5-6 sessions. We're mainly focusing on the technology trends. So it was mainly IT focus. This year, we are going to different topics. Like we're starting with the citizen science, and also we have a session planned for June on Generation Z political participation, and then also planning with Dr. Sukaina on strategic foresight, and we're looking also fishing for topics. And lucky enough, we are doing this in the new library space. As you see, it's a small space, but we just opened it last week. So thank you very much to kick off this interesting topic. And I know you are an expert in this topic, citizen science, public participation, collaboration. And maybe we can see how, I know, usually this topic is seen from the scientific point of view rather than socio-economic point of view, how the public can participate. So with your experience in ECLAC and elsewhere, maybe we can touch and see how this could be helpful for colleagues at ESCWA and also colleagues online, how this topic can help. Just briefly, we already shared your bio with colleagues, and just very quickly, so our colleague Wouter Schallier is the Strategic Heritage Coordinator at UNOG Library and Archives. He has a very rich background in library science and strategic leadership, including directing the Library of Medicine and Pharmacy at K.U.Leuven, and serving as Executive Director of LIBER, and also Wouter led the UNECLAC Library for quite some time. So thank you very much, Wouter, again, and over to you.
Thank you so much, Suhail, for your invitation. And it's really an honor for me to be there, at least virtually, in your new library space, which I understand you just inaugurated. So this is really fantastic, and I hope you, and I'm sure you use this space a lot. So yeah, today we're going to talk about citizen science, public participation, collaboration, and real-world impact. I'm not an expert in citizen science, but what we did was basically, when I was the chief librarian at ECLAC, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, we discovered citizen science and the power of citizen science, I would say, the last 2 years. And so just to kind of learn ourselves about the topic, we started organizing several seminars about citizen science. And this was in the context of a series of open science talks that we've been organizing for 8 years or even more than that. And so for us in the beginning, citizen science was a new topic, and we wanted to learn more about it. And that's why we basically started organizing these sessions. And one of the last things we organized was in November. And after that, I left ECLAC, and I'm now based in Geneva. We organized a 3 days masterclass on citizen science together with the Association of European Research Libraries. I'll show you the website that is still there, and that basically has all the presentations and all the videos which you can look at. And if you are really interested in citizen science, I would definitely direct you to that website, because it has a lot of materials. It's quite complete in coverage of what citizen science means. And so it's really a great start. So let me share my screen. I'm not going to give a PowerPoint, but but all right, there we go. I'm going to do a PowerPoint, but I hope you can see my screen.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, so basically this is an article from Nature, 2019. The title is Citizen Science and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. In this article, as you can see in the abstract, it is stated that non-traditional data sources, such as data generated by citizens, are needed to measure the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And the article says traditional data, traditional statistical data pose some problems. They are costly to obtain. The reporting happens on a national level, and so regional variations are not often captured. And finally, questions can be raised about the accuracy, openness, and coverage of official data. So it's an interesting article because this is already 6 years ago that in scientific literature they were talking about citizen science and its potential. So basically, citizen science, just remove this. All right. Citizen science represents a new approach to scientific research by enabling meaningful public participation in the scientific process. It is transforming how we conduct research, collect data, and address complex global challenges. There are some notable examples that demonstrate the transformative power of citizen science. NASA, for example, has important citizen science projects that have enabled over 400 citizen scientists to be named as co-authors on peer-reviewed scientific publications. There's also other examples, such as the Radio Galaxy Zoo project, that involved 12,000 volunteers who analyzed radio sky images. And in this way, they completed work that was equivalent to 120 years of full-time research by a single astronomer. So these examples show how citizen science enables meaningful contributions to research while making science more accessible and participatory. The success of these projects, of course, depends on well-designed protocols, appropriate training, and user-friendly tools that allow volunteers to contribute effectively. So what is citizen science? Citizen science involves the direct participation of citizens in scientific research and knowledge production. This democratization of science breaks down traditional barriers between experts and the public and creates new pathways for scientific discovery. In the Philippines, for example, community volunteers collected household census data on poverty, nutrition, health, education, and disaster risk reduction. And this work, statistical data that are collected is officially recognized by the Philippine Statistical Authority for enhancing their SDGs indicators. In Peru, participatory water monitoring programs enable community involvement in watershed planning, supported by the National Water Authority for reporting on clean water and sanitation goals. In Brazil, the Climate Smart Agriculture Maize program helps small-scale farmers monitor soil moisture and implement adaptive land management when they cannot access expensive monitoring services. There are many other examples, but these examples basically showcase how citizen science initiatives in the global south are addressing local challenges while contributing valuable data for environmental monitoring, resource management, and sustainable development. So why now citizen science? Well, the widespread availability of smartphones and sensors has revolutionized citizen participation in science. This technological accessibility enables citizens to actively participate and contribute to data collection and research, making science more inclusive and collaborative than ever before. Now, with all this connectivity and the availability of smartphones, we should not forget that still approximately 37% of the world's population, 3 billion people, does not have access to the internet. And when I was working in Latin America, specifically, around 32% of the population still doesn't have reliable connectivity. And there's, of course, significant disparities between urban and rural areas. So while 80% of urban populations have access to internet, the gap can reach up to 50% touch points between wealthy and poor households. Now, despite these challenges that we still have in the world in terms of connectivity, mobile technology has become increasingly widespread. And this, of course, is a major catalyst for citizen science. Now, let's remember also that the UN Secretary General's high-level panel on digital cooperation has emphasized that achieving affordable access to digital networks for every adult by 2030 is part of broader efforts to ensure universal connectivity and bridge the digital divide. So what's the impact of citizen science on scientific research? Well, as I mentioned in my examples at the beginning, citizen science allows data collection on an unprecedented scale. We can mobilize citizens, very big groups of citizens, which we would, and do work that we would never be able to do with only professional researchers. So it offers cost-effective research methods compared to traditional data collection. It also allows us to, and I already mentioned, it also allows us to capture regional variations that often are missed in national level reporting. And finally, it enhances community awareness and action through direct participation of citizens. There are many real-world applications of citizen science that span multiple fields, such as environmental monitoring, biodiversity studies, astronomy, climate change research, census, public health, mental health, census and demographics, historical research, urban studies, etc. Now, you may say, what can non-professional citizens, non-professional researchers, citizens, do? Is there no issue of data quality and validation? Well, actually, research has shown that citizen scientists generally provide very high quality data. Of course, the effectiveness depends on some key factors, such as the complexity of the science and the clarity of the science tasks, and the level of training that is provided to participants. I would also add the user friendliness of digital tools that citizens use for their participation in citizen science, of course, is also a very important factor. And so data generated by citizens has tremendous potential for helping us to monitor the Sustainable Development Goals. And engaging citizens in the data collection process improves community awareness and action. Moreover, citizen science promotes broader scientific literacy by providing hands-on experience with scientific methods. It develops critical thinking skills, enables informed decision-making about scientific issues, and creates amongst citizens a deeper understanding of the scientific process. So, access to scientific information and data, the democratization of scientific processes, and participatory knowledge creation have become crucial elements for addressing global challenges. Open access to scientific information and data, and how participatory knowledge infrastructures can empower people to become digital citizens rather than just consumers is very, very powerful. And so, of course, and this is something that my colleague Suhair also works on in a daily basis. Libraries, this is their core business. We are working on immediate access to scientific data, reliable data and knowledge, and offer meaningful opportunities for public participation in research and more research collaboration between regions all over the world to achieve more open, diverse, and better science. So what's the role of information professionals in citizen science? As I mentioned, in November 2024, ECLAC Library, the Economic Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean, organized a 3 days masterclass on citizen science in collaboration with the Association of European Research Libraries. I'll show you this is the website. So if you look for citizen science and ECLAC, UN ECLAC, Google will direct you to this webpage. And basically it has the program, the presentations, and the recordings, the video recordings of the 3 days of masterclass about citizen science. So I really would like to invite you because it offers a quite complete overview of what citizen science implies. It provides some really interesting experiences and examples of citizen science. And it also talks about the potential of citizen science for information professionals. And information professionals and libraries play several key roles in citizen science. In terms of supporting data management, libraries assist researchers and citizens in managing, preserving, and sharing data from citizen science projects, providing guidance on best practices and data repositories. Libraries also provide community engagement. Libraries serve as accessible, non-commercial spaces for communities to meet and participate in citizen science initiatives, offering a lower threshold to academic research than faculties. Libraries are also infrastructure providers. Libraries provide physical and digital infrastructures for citizens' science projects, including meeting spaces, such as the beautiful space that you just opened there in ESCWA, digital tools and resources. Libraries make their collections available for citizen science projects, particularly in areas like heritage collections and special archives that can support participatory research. Libraries also offer training and support. Libraries offer workshops, tutorials, and resources to help participants develop necessary digital skills and understand scientific methods. Libraries can act as intermediaries between researchers and the public, help to coordinate and support citizen science initiatives. And libraries basically help bridge the digital divide by providing access to technology, infrastructure, and support for underserved communities to participate in citizen science. Now, libraries also have to evolve to make citizen science part of their business. So libraries, to effectively support citizen science, need to develop advocacy strategies to promote our role in citizen science project. We need to build partnerships with researchers and community organizations. It is kind of a change in paradigm because we have some experience in working with professional researchers, but not necessarily with citizens, with amateur researchers, to say so. And so that is where we need to learn. Libraries also need to adapt services to local institutional and societal contexts. And we need to ensure that staff receives appropriate training in citizen science methodologies. And what comes out of this masterclass that we organized in November is that there's a lot of citizen science projects, and there's a lot of researchers that are involved in citizen science projects, but there are much less examples of libraries that are playing a very prominent role in citizen science. And this is something that we are working on. This is something that we want to change because we believe it's important. And basically, libraries act as digital knowledge infrastructures and hubs for digital empowerment. So libraries play a crucial role in correcting the power imbalance between data producers and data owners. And data owners are often a few commercial companies, big companies that own data that citizens produce. And so what we do as libraries, and what we should do even more, is to make sure that we, in a way, make the bridge from citizens as digital consumers to digital citizens. And so we do that through access to information and data, supporting digital literacy, and creating these spaces for community engagement, training, and knowledge sharing. So we transform people from digital consumers into digital citizens. And what are digital citizens? Well, digital citizens are individuals who actively participate in and contribute to the digital society using information, data, technology, and online platforms responsibly, ethically, and effectively. So citizen science is something that is quite challenging because it's a kind of a change of paradigm. It's challenging for researchers because many of them are not used to work with citizens. And so you have those silos of professional experts, professional researchers. But at the same time, also with libraries, you see that we don't really have a lot of experience, most of us, a lot of experience with research projects and working with citizens. So this is a change, quite a change. But this is something that comes in a very natural way, and we've seen this with the examples of the masterclass, that citizen science is fast becoming a kind of a new science, a new way of doing science, a default way of doing science. It's just a new science, a new type of science. So we need to make some steps there. We need to keep working on access to quality data and knowledge. And this may seem like obvious, but it's not. I think in this jungle of information that the internet is, there is still big challenges in terms of providing access to quality data and knowledge. We also have to work on our capacity and the capacity of research institutions to manage data. We have to create meaningful opportunities for public participation in research, develop regional and global networks, collaborative networks, and also implement transparent, ethical frameworks for data usage. The technological advances we have at our disposal are tools for all of humanity to achieve a more just and equal world. And so this is something that we need to work on and that we need to keep working on. I can give more examples of successful citizen science projects, and they're all over Europe. For example, here in Zurich, in the Library of Zurich, for example, there's the Central Bibliothek of Zurich. This is a lot of experience in terms of citizen science projects where citizens basically supported in transcribing historical documents, georeferencing maps. There's also in France a few examples. In Denmark, in Scandinavian countries, there's a lot of examples there. In the university, at the University of Southern Denmark, who was very prominent in our master class, one of the organizers. They even created a Citizen Science Knowledge Center that helps researchers develop projects and acts as a community manager to promote events and reach participants. There's also in Spain and many other countries, both in the global north and the global south, where you have those examples of citizen science projects. So these examples demonstrate how libraries can serve multiple roles in citizen science, from providing infrastructure and expertise to facilitating community engagement and data management. Now, there are some challenges, there are some opportunities, and so I'd like to give you some key considerations for a successful citizen science project. Well, first of all, we need to ensure the data quality and standardization of data. And this is something that when I was at the Regional Commission for Latin America and the Caribbean was a challenge to reach this standardization on a regional level. We also have to, we should not forget that citizen science work with volunteers and that maintaining the engagement of volunteers is a challenge and is something that we need to develop a strategy for that. And this is something, of course, that we need to do with researchers. We also need to create effective training programs for incorporating citizen science in a new way of working. We also have to focus on developing user-friendly digital tools, because if we don't have those user-friendly digital tools, it's very hard to have a successful citizen science project. And we also have to work on bridging the gap of digital divides that still exist in our societies. And so work towards more connectivity and a more inclusive participation of citizens. So the future of citizen science lies in integration with formal research processes. This is something that in many institutions is still lacking, and so this is something that is going on. Enhanced digital platforms for collaboration, expanded use in policy making and monitoring, and greater recognition in academic and scientific communities. And this is a very important point, which was also highlighted in our masterclass. This recognition of the role of citizens in the research process is something that is really important. It's obvious for professional researchers because this is what they build their academic career on. But there are not necessarily strategies in place or processes in place for the recognition also of citizens in research. And yeah, basically that's kind of it. I think, yeah, we're at 36 minutes. So as a conclusion, I can say that citizen science represents a powerful approach to conducting research while building bridges between scientists and the public. It not only contributes to scientific knowledge, but it also creates more informed and engaged communities that are essential for addressing today's global challenges. And just to conclude, I just want to walk you through the website. So half of the presentations are in Spanish, the other half are in English. But if you watch the videos on YouTube with the captions, you can basically change the language, and so you can also watch the videos in English, and so you can basically cover here. And so here you can have an idea of what we've covered this in this masterclass. This is about strategies and policies. Then this is an overview of citizen science in Latin America. There were some very interesting examples there. Then citizen science strategy, policy, and how to get started. Yeah, so then for the second day, here are some on good practices and citizen science, some examples both from Europe and from Latin America. How do you manage projects in citizen science is something that we also have here. Yeah, so the design, the management, and implementation of citizen science projects, very important. And so how do you put this in practice? How do you do capacity building for managing projects, citizen science projects? And so the kind of a complete coverage of what citizen science can offer as a potential. So with that, I finish my presentation and open to your questions and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Wouter. Appreciate that. Before I give the floor to colleagues, anybody can ask either online by chat or raising their hands, and also colleagues here. You know, I don't know from the secretariat. Do you know of any examples who used it, like not in ECLAC maybe? You know, any UN entity has used this in one of the projects? Do you know?
So it's very difficult.
No, any example from the UN? If anybody has used citizen science principle in their project or research from the UN family, if you can remember.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about, examples from the UN system, where citizen science is put into practice. Most of the citizen science projects that I know of are usually from in the academic context. And so, yeah, it would actually be interesting to, actually that sounds like a great project for, to create a website where we can actually visualize. I know that UNDP, for example, has some publications on citizen science. And so there's been some research within the UN on the importance of citizen science, also in UNESCO, of course. Now, of examples where the UN is actually involved in citizen science projects, it would be interesting to basically, if it doesn't exist yet, to create a website or a directory or something like that of that, because I think that will really help to raise awareness on citizen science.
Thank you very much. Any question?
Sounds like a plan.
Yes.
Sure. Continue. So if I sit here. here.
Yeah, but
Can
you need to
hear
shout
me
a little bit.
okay?
Can you hear Wouter?
Sorry.
Can you hear me or no? Maybe
Yeah,
I did.
you sound very far. It's
But
the
is it
the
to
sound
your,
is.
to your laptop? Okay, I don't know. Oh, it's there. Okay. Anyway, two things. So first of all, in terms of UN work around this, I think I'm not entirely sure the name of the program and the work that's being done, but I think there is some element of citizen science in the climate, peace, and security
Yeah.
that's maybe being done by the Climate Security Mechanism with DPPA in New York. Though I'm trying to remember or they were collaborating with a partner in the field who had a citizen science element to their collection. But my question is there any time where you think citizen science is not appropriate? So are there guidelines around when and when it should not be used, depending on the research topic, depending on the nature or characteristics of the population? Just any guidelines around that?
Well, that's a great question, actually. I don't think there's this kind of, let's say, red lines. I mean, there are, of course, issues when issues such as privacy are involved. There may be concerns, or that may basically exclude this kind of wider participation of citizens. So that's I think, I mean, the most important thing, like in medical research, for example, but basically any research project where privacy is an issue. I think that's an important point. I'm not aware of guidelines where, let's say, there is that kind of put the red line of, I mean, citizen science is not possible. What I hear is mainly the opposite. I hear that, for example, from universities in the Netherlands, that citizen science or public participation, citizens' participation is kind of becoming default in research projects. And so that you always add that dimension to research projects even to be accepted because of transparency, because you want to involve. So, I mean, the tendency is more in the opposite direction, is to try to figure out how we can actually involve citizens in research, rather than saying, okay, in this case, we cannot do that. I think the tendency is more to find solutions so that public participation is actually possible.
Thank you, Matt. Julian, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Wouter, for your intervention and for sharing your experience with citizen science and public participation. We at ESCWA, we have recently published the Arab Sustainable Development Report, the edition of 2024, and this is the only regional comprehensive report on SDGs policies in the region.
Mm-hmm.
And for producing that report, we have mobilized and used official governmental information, including the so-called VNR report, the Voluntary National Review report, as well as other authoritative sources of information and data from the UN at both regional, sub-regional, and national level, from both qualitative and quantitative perspective. And obviously, we face quite classical issues in terms of lack of data and information, including for the SDG indicators. I have recently realized that Copilot, that I am still discovering, by the way, could have helped us in bridging this gap. And now I do think that citizen science is probably another avenue to explore in the future. And by telling that, I am thinking to the next quadriennial ASDR, Arab Sustainable Development Report, which is due in 2028, and which will focus on monitoring and evaluation, on policy evaluation. However, I am wondering, and I would like to know your view about that, I am wondering about two possible issues we may face in mobilizing citizen science to support the preparation of this kind of report. First, regarding availability and access to information produced by citizen science, taking into consideration challenges that you have mentioned in terms of data quality and standardization, because information may be very dispersed. And I wonder if, do you know any global or regional repository of data and information produced by citizen science, I mean at global or regional level, and if you have any example from Latin America that could be of interest or scaled up in or replicated in the Arab region, for instance. And the second question is about reliability of data produced by citizen science in terms of verification mechanism. How to be sure that the information produced by citizen science is accurate and reliable enough to be also accepted by our member states. Thank you.
All right. So about the availability of data, and specifically data that come out of are the result of citizen science projects. No, I'm not aware of like a regional or a global repository of citizen science project data. So what we have is usually data that are made available in the context of a project. So it's usually thematic repositories, if any. And so that's basically what we have. And so it's a big challenge. For example, when I was in Latin America, to kind of reach this consistency on the regional level of data, even the data that come from very traditional sources is already a challenge. And so you could say that adding citizen science is actually adding complexity to this, and so adding more challenges to this, which is partially true. It adds more complexity, but I think it also opens up some opportunities. And you mentioned co-pilot, artificial intelligence. In the same way, I mean, artificial intelligence also poses a lot of challenges for us, but also offers a lot of new ways of doing, new opportunities to process larger quantities of data much faster. And so what I'm hoping there is to see even more projects where basically citizen science and artificial intelligence basically go hand in hand. And that I think is also, I mean, I think we need more projects where you basically, where we highlight the opportunities, where we highlight the potential that this opens up. Offering this resources, human resources, together with the technologies such as the tools such as artificial intelligence, I think is a combination that has a lot of potential, but we are kind of still exploring, and where I don't think we have a lot of examples. In terms of reliability of data, I think, as I also mentioned in my presentation, there's a lot of concerns about that, the concerns that are not actually justified, because this has been demonstrated, the quality of data that comes out of citizen science projects is very reliable, because the methodology of of the project, the research project, is a sound methodology. The training, of course, you have to invest a lot of in training of your citizens that are participating in the project. But as long as you can, I mean, guarantee that this sound basis of research project, basically, I mean, the data quality is definitely not an issue.
Thanks a lot, Wouter. We have a question in the Q&A, but first I give the floor to my colleague, Shikani.
Thank you, Wouter. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, very good. So I'll make sure to elevate my voice. So this is Sukaina. I did urban development at ESCWA, and it's music to my ears, to be very honest, to hear you insist on the importance of the engagement of citizens and public participation. So because we really advocate for and I heard you also focusing on the importance of the local engagement to inform the national, the regional. So and this is really what we advocate for through the portfolio. Now, I do have, if you allow me, I have 4 short questions, and I'll go through them. So the first one is about, I mean, you mentioned that citizen science is a change of paradigm, right? So I'm just interested to hear from you your insight whether we consider citizen science as a tool for engagement or like a catalyst for transformation when we talk about the development dialogue. That's
so as a tool for engagement.
Yes, or a catalyst for transformation, because I mean, you know, we're a policy think tank and we always look for change and the development dialogue. So how do we look at that? The second question is about, I mean, you mentioned that there were different interventions and questions about the data and the quality of data. And in your intervention, you mentioned that citizen science proved to provide high quality data. Yeah. So my question is, what happens if you have any examples? You mentioned Philippines, Brazil, etc. What happens if citizens generate evidence that basically challenge the official narrative? Do you have any examples where like citizen engagement really impacted the narrative that is there? And you talked a lot about digital citizens and the use of technologies, etc. So I'm really interested to hear a little bit from you about how could the citizen science be, or like, can we consider citizen science as the missing link between big data, because we know citizens generate data on the go, right? So could citizen science be considered as the missing link between big data and like the real urban life experience? Since you mentioned the local level. And the very last question, apologies for the series of questions. You mentioned the digital divide, right? And the concept of digital citizens. So how can we use citizen science in like planning, be it at the national level or local level, or informing the regional perspective, without basically reinforcing the digital divide? I mean, do you have any insights on that? And I'll start.
Sorry, can you please repeat the last part of that question?
So basically, the last question was about this link between the digital science, the digital citizens, okay, and the concept of the digital divide. You mentioned both of them, okay? So my question is about, speaking about the digital divide, how can we basically integrate citizen science in planning and be it at the local level, national level, regional level, without reinforcing the digital divide? If you have any insights on that. And I'll stop here. Thank you so much.
Okay. So these are really, really interesting questions. I hope I'll be able to respond. Well, first, citizen science as a tool for engagement or a catalyst for transformation. Well, I think it's both. I think it's a tool for engagement that is really important, because there's a lot of concerns about the quality of data, the data that we find on the internet, the citizens find on social media, etc., etc. So what is reliable information? What is not reliable information? I'll give an example of when we were in pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. The first year was a very stressful year for a lot of people because there was no vaccines. We didn't know what was happening and what could happen to us if we got sick, etc., etc. And there was a lot of stress because we were basically sitting on a research process of trying, and I mean, it was amazing what we managed. It was historic what we managed. It's the first time in human history that we managed to develop in 1 year, less than 1 year, we managed to develop several vaccines. I mean, normally it takes 10 years in average to develop a vaccine. But still, we were very stressed about it and felt very long and very slow, this whole research process of developing vaccines for the COVID-19. And so we were basically living life, the positive and the negative, well, mostly negative results of this development of vaccines. And that was kind of the first time that a lot of citizens discovered the existence of repositories, academic repositories, where researchers share their data without, I mean, before peer review is done. And so since we were so anxious in finding, developing vaccines, everybody was sharing, I mean, researchers were sharing their results in a very fast way because we can do that now through the internet and through the repositories that we have. And so I think we kind of missed there an opportunity to communicate about how research works. And that in research, there's a lot of negative results and there's a lot of disappointing results that come out of it. And that kind of part of the normal process of doing research. But for citizens, this was, I think, very stressful. And I think we as a research community, I don't think we managed to communicate very well on how to manage those repositories, because everybody had access to the data. Everybody had access to the publications on COVID-19. But we didn't manage, I think, completely in explaining to people what the value was of that process and how the research process worked. Now, we will have other opportunities, and I think citizen science is one of those opportunities, a positive opportunity to engage citizens in the research process, to familiarize people with the research process. And I think there's a lot we can do there in terms of literacy training. And I think it's not only an opportunity, I think it's also very necessary to do this, because most of research in the world is financed by taxes, public funding, and there's a lot of citizens ask for transparency of how public money is being spent, and I think there is also an opportunity to explain that to citizens. And this is also what I mentioned with my example from the Netherlands, is that you have this awareness of seeing this opportunity to basically involve people in this. It's also a catalyst for transformation. When we talk about citizen science, we talk about new science, we talk about open science, and open science. I'm sitting here in Geneva, where the internet was invented, and the internet was invented here at CERN, basically to share very fast research results. And so benefiting from the technological advances that we have with the internet, we were looking for solutions there to share very fast research results. And that's how the internet was born. And so open science, in that sense, is change of paradigm, but it's a science that is being adapted to this new reality, technological reality of internet and the ability to share research results very fast. But again, I mean, this requires education of citizens. And I think there's no better education than actually engagement, involvement of citizens in the research process. And I think that's really, so I think it's both a tool for engagement and a catalyst for transformation. So then the second, in terms of quality of data and how data that come out of citizen science projects in a way challenge the traditional data resources. And I think this is something that constantly happens. And I think this is also one of the benefits of citizen science is that the ambition is to improve our way of doing science, our way of collecting data. And so I think this is constantly challenging our traditional methodologies, our traditional data, because we want to improve the data. And that's one of the explicit ambitions of citizen science, is to make better science, more inclusive science, and more representative science, more representative data of society that we are living in. Then the third question is in science and the missing link between big data and real experience. Yeah, I'm not sure I get that question. So I'll try to answer of what I think you are referring to. So it's I mean, big data is and we used to talk a lot about big data. We don't talk so much now about big data anymore because we talk more about artificial intelligence. I mean, artificial intelligence, of course, is a very important tool to kind of, I mean, work with big data. I mean, my question is, and this is a question I'm asking myself, is what can, in a world where we have this artificial intelligence tools to process big data, what can citizen science actually add to this? So what's the added value to this? I mean, this is also something that we discussed a bit before. I don't think there's a lot of examples where we have this combination of artificial intelligence tools and also this citizen science. And so this is something that we definitely need to explore, in my opinion. I mean, even if in this artificial intelligence world and this big data world, there's still a lot of manual work. done by human beings. We often don't realize, but there's a lot of data quality work being done by human beings in all the digital platforms that we are using, social networks, for example, or social media, for example. Even there's a lot of work being done in the background by human beings. Whether that is and work with decent salaries, etc. That's a different story. But I think that there's still a lot of opportunities there for participation, engagement of citizens in this new world where there's where we talk about big data, artificial intelligence, etc. There's still a lot of value that human labor, that human beings can actually, as amateur researchers, can actually add to this in the research context. The last question about digital divide and integrate digital science without, and I missed the word, without the digital divide.
Without reinforcing.
Reinforcing?
Yeah.
So how to use citizen science without reinforcing?
How to integrate digital science without reinforcing digital divide? Yeah.
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's a good question because or perhaps the other way around, how can citizen science be a catalyst for bridging this digital divide?
Yeah.
How can citizen science project enable the participation of people who otherwise would not have had the opportunity to participate in, or don't have a connectivity as a basic need. Yeah, absolutely. I think, for example, I mean, like bird observations and this kind of stuff. Many of that data, I mean, sometimes up to 50% of data in terms of bird observations, etc., already have most of their data, 50%, coming out of purely citizen science projects. Now, whether we are there, I mean, reaching the people who don't suffer from digital divide, or whether we have this opportunity to actually include people who suffer from digital divide, that's not clear to me. I think it can be a step up to actually achieve this. Because, for example, I'm thinking of this example because, for bird observation, I mean, in principle, you could perfectly do this without any digital tools. And so I'm sure there are examples of where people actually, through their participation, through their interest, their keen interest in this issue of bird observation, in a way, actually also, I mean, bridge this digital divide, and in a way that we make progress also in that sense. That's really an interesting topic that I will have to explore a bit more. But I think it's definitely, I mean, it's something that we as information professionals are working on every day. I mean, trying to be as inclusive as possible to make our infrastructure available to those people who don't necessarily have this infrastructure. And going back to my example of the pandemic, I mean, in a city like in New York, it was surprising to see that, I mean, during COVID, there's plenty of people who were actually coming to the public library in New York. I mean, in a city where you would assume that most people have access to the internet, which was not the case, and so that people actually come to the public library, they couldn't enter in the library because of the health restrictions, but they could actually connect. They opened the Wi-Fi of the public library in New York and made it available to citizens who normally would not have access to the internet, who don't have access to the internet from home. And so this is something that as libraries we are very aware of and that we are working on. And I think if there's one way that we could actually increase also the number of citizen science where libraries are actually participating in, one of that examples of where we in an explicit way try to bridge this digital divide by including people in research projects who normally wouldn't have this connectivity. I think that would be fantastic, and I'll definitely something that I'm gonna do some research on the net to see if I can find some concrete examples of that.
Thanks a lot, Wouter. I know we went over time, but just we have a question in the chat from from Rania. She's asking, what measures can we implement to prevent biases in citizen science data that arise from sudden, sudden acute climate change impact, example, extreme weather events. So what measures can we implement to prevent biases in citizen science data?
What measures can we implement to prevent biases in citizen science data that arise from sudden or acute climate change impacts, extreme weather events? I would say, I mean, the same measures as we have in traditional science, because of course traditional science also has a lot of bias, and I would say the ambition of citizen science or open science as an umbrella that is basically covering citizen science. One of the explicit ambitions of open science, and so also citizen science, is to exactly overcome those biases, and so I mean the measures are the same as in traditional science to overcome those. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, Wouter. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, and looking forward for other future sessions with you and colleagues also within Geneva and beyond. So thank you very much, Wouter. I really appreciate that. And we already 15 minutes on top of the 1 hour we agreed on. So thank you very much, Wouter.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Good day.
Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.